I was thinking maybe I would read this Halloween scene since it's almost Halloween, or where James takes his son trick or treating, or I could read this scene where I could read the beginning of the fraternity party scene. Do we have a preference? Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Oh my, okay. All right. Halloween it is. That's not what I would have guessed you would say. All right. You'll give me a second because it's James again. I got roped into trick or treating with some of the parents from Henry's preschool, and we've caravanned to the most kid friendly neighborhood where my son, cute as a cowboy, bites a ballerina when she snags his stick horse and decapitates it with one swing. Henry shrieks like we're in a scene from The Godfather and goes on the attack. I'm mortified. He never bites, I say, sounding just like every other parent making the same claim, and within 2 minutes, we've been ostracized to the back of the group with the stragglers. I have a really hard time not smacking the shit out of my son, and I try one of those deep breaths I've seen Joel take 1,000 times and crouch down beside Henry, trying to ignore the dirty princess picking her nose right beside us. You got so mad, I say to my kid, and even though he's sobbing, he gives me a big old nod like, yeah, I did. I nod back at him, giving my sympathy a little time to sink in before I tell him that even when we're pissed, we don't go around biting people. My hoss got bwoked, he whines. Bwoked. I know, buddy, I say. That sucks. That sucks, he repeats darkly, and I try not to look at the parents judging the profane little vampire I'm raising by myself. I add silently because whatever, it's Halloween and who the hell knows where my ex wife is tonight. You still want to go trick or treating? I ask, and he sniffles. Man, I'm almost hoping he says no, and that makes me feel like the delinquent daddy I've been since we left for Greece in June. After a summer in the dirt, I came back to Chicago and threw myself right into the fall quarter. Every spare second I've got, I've been writing up what we found outside Corinthia, submitting papers for publication, and trying to line up as many conferences as I can. The only time I took a break was when Joel came here, and that's because he showed up looking like he was the one with the shitty diagnosis and not his dad. More and more often, I've been late picking up Henry from preschool, and now that he moved into his big boy bed, he kept climbing out of his crib in the middle of the night, and the first time I saw him standing beside my bed in the dark, I almost had a heart attack. I don't even get nights with him. I don't think I realized how much I've been counting that time as quality over the last couple years. Him too, I guess, which might explain the way he went after the ballerina and the way he's still standing in front of me with tears running down his cheeks. I pull him into a hug until he stops crying. You ready to get some candy, buddy? I ask, and he nods. I scoop him up and hightail after our group, falling into step a minute later with the mama of that dirty princess. She squeezes out a tight ass smile, then looks away. Whatever, Henry's happy. And I walk alongside him, thinking about Halloween my sophomore year in college and how I'd wandered down 6th Street wearing a Dracula cape and fangs. Joel wasn't wearing a costume. He never wore a costume, not until he and Adam got together. One year they went as a police officer and prisoner, another year as a pirate and his wench. You're wearing a dress? I asked in disbelief, and he said, I look good in it. Or maybe he said, Adam likes it. Or maybe he said both, and I just can't remember. But a few nights later, he emailed me a picture, and I squinted at it a while before I caught on that this was Joel I was staring at in a corset and eyeliner. And now, hell, that's what's on my mind as I trudge down the windy street with Henry holding my hand. That picture and our phone call this afternoon. He's got a date with someone named Elias tonight, and I'm betting he's the same guy I caught Joel talking to when he was here last month. Whatever, I shouldn't say caught like Joel was doing something wrong. I could hear him as soon as I closed the door of Henry's room at the top of the second flight of stairs. Not the words, but the laugh. The same laugh I remembered from that Christmas after he broke up with Adam. I caught that laugh and crept down the stairs, keeping care to tread wide when I hit the one that creaked. Is that what you want to hear? Joel asked into the phone, and I took another step, his voice kicking up all kinds of confusion. Why was I sneaking up on him like this? Tell me, he said, like he was talking to me and only me, except he wasn't, and I knew it, and I got pissed enough to forget why I had ended up in Chicago in the first place. I took the last couple steps in a leap that made me think I might still be in that Cretan cemetery. Even then, I thought it was bullshit the way he shoved his phone out of sight down between the cushions on the couch, like maybe that'd mean I hadn't seen him. I could have let him off the hook, and I probably should have, given what had left behind a few days earlier in Houston, but instead I dropped down beside him and dug around until I found his phone. Anyone I know? I asked. I just met him, he said. You sounded awfully fucking familiar to me, I told him, and he got real quiet. Am I supposed to apologize? He finally asked. No way could I name everything going on in those eyes of his, but I felt like I'd made a couple wrong turns and ended up on the shitty side of town. All that work making us right, and I was going to end up having to start from scratch again if he let me. Nah, man, I said, handing over his phone. You're supposed to tell me about him. He didn't. He said there wasn't anything to tell. They'd just started hanging out and he'd be sure to give me a heads up once they set a date for the wedding. I grimaced and got us both a beer, and we talked about what time he should pick up Henry from preschool the next day. Until this morning, I'd shoved the memory from my mind, but then Joel casually mentioned a date with some Elias dude earlier today, and what the fuck ever. I've been thinking about it ever since. I bet he's the same goddamn guy. Henry and I follow the dirty ballerina up someone's front steps. Twick-a-tweet, Henry sings, holding out his jack-o'-lantern when I prod him. In go a couple blow pops and a Snickers bar. Thank you, Henry says solemnly, turning to show me his loot. Nice job, I say. You want to try another house? He holds out longer than I expect, and I finally haul him back to the car as he sucks on a blow pop. I've got a feeling I'm going to be eating a shitload of candy over the next few days just so he doesn't eat all this himself, and I buckle him in his car seat, then glance at him in the rearview mirror as I start my Volvo. You have fun tonight, buddy? I ask, but he's got that glassy look in his eyes that tells me he's too tired to answer, and by the time I pull up in front of our brownstone, he's sound asleep, his lips red and sticky. I sit there for a second, staring at my son, and goddamn, it's not my ex-wife I wish were with me. Thank you. Thank you, y'all. Seriously. I love James. I mean, I love them all. They behave badly. All of them. They all behave badly.